Hello. General Hospital today will reveal. Recent spoilers from General Hospital point to an intense and emotionally charged medical crisis that is about to unfold in Port Charles. One that places both professional skill and emotional resilience to the ultimate test. At the center of this looming emergency are Lucas Jones and Elizabeth Baldwin, who will soon be forced to confront a situation where time, judgment, and fate collide around the life of a mysterious patient whose identity remains deliberately concealed. According to the latest updates, a serious medical emergency is on the horizon, and it is expected to erupt suddenly rather than through a slow buildup. The circumstances suggest that an unidentified patient will be discovered and rushed to General Hospital in critical condition, triggering an immediate response from the medical staff. The secrecy surrounding this patient only heightens the tension, raising questions about whether this individual is a familiar face from Port Charles or someone whose arrival will unexpectedly ripple through the lives of multiple characters. What is clear is that the condition will be severe enough to demand rapid intervention, decisive leadership, and flawless coordination under pressure. On January 20th, Lucas and Elizabeth are set to spring into action almost immediately, implying that the emergency occurs during working hours when both are already on duty. Their swift involvement suggests a case that cannot wait, one where every second counts, and hesitation could prove fatal. Elizabeth's experience, intuition, and emotional steadiness will be crucial as she supports Lucas, who is expected to take on a commanding role in managing the crisis. The dynamic between them will likely highlight not only their professional compatibility, but also the emotional weight they both carry from years of working on the front lines of life and death situations. Despite Lucas stepping into a leadership position and relying heavily on Elizabeth's support, the spoilers strongly hint that their combined efforts may still fall short. This implication introduces a sobering reality that even the most skilled doctors cannot always overcome. The tension will not stem solely from medical uncertainty, but from the creeping realization that some outcomes remain beyond human control. The sense of helplessness often leaves the deepest scars on medical professionals, especially when they have done everything possible yet still face devastating results. The following day, January 21st, the emotional consequences of this crisis are expected to fully surface. Lucas will be confronted with one of the most painful responsibilities in medicine, delivering heartbreaking news. This task is never routine, no matter how many times it is done. And the spoilers suggest that the information he must share will be particularly difficult. Whether he is speaking to a loved one desperately clinging to hope or addressing colleagues who understand the gravity of the loss, the moment will likely underscore the emotional toll that doctors quietly endure behind their professional composure. The storyline appears poised to explore not just the fragility of life, but also the moral and emotional burdens carried by those sworn to protect it. Lucas's struggle to communicate devastating updates may reveal cracks beneath his calm exterior, while Elizabeth's presence could serve as both an anchor and a mirror, reflecting the shared grief of medical professionals who are often expected to remain strong at all times. The aftermath of this crisis may linger far beyond the immediate episodes, influencing future decisions, relationships, and internal conflicts. As the mystery surrounding the patient's identity continues, viewers are left to speculate about the broader implications. The patient could be connected to an existing storyline, reopening old wounds or igniting new conflicts, or their death could act as a catalyst for future plot twists within the hospital and the wider community of Port Charles. Regardless of who this patient turns out to be, the upcoming episodes promise a powerful reminder that in General Hospital, medical emergencies are never just about medicine. They are about loss, responsibility, and the quiet devastation that follows when even the best efforts are not enough. In the same high-stakes episode that places General Hospital's medical team on edge, Laura Collins is set to experience a deeply disturbing shock, one that may permanently shift her perspective and emotional footing long celebrated for her strength, poise, and unwavering resolve as a matriarchal figure in Port Charles. Laura will soon find herself thrust into the heart of a mystery that threatens both her peace of mind and the very foundations of trust she's built over years of navigating political intrigue, family betrayals, and personal loss. This unexpected emotional blow may be tied directly to the identity of the mysterious patient in crisis and perhaps more painfully to someone she once believed to be beyond danger, with an air of secrecy surrounding the patient in question. Speculation has intensified that Valentine Casadini may be the one whose life is hanging in the balance. Valentine's complicated history with Laura bridging the chasm between adversary-reluctant ally. An extended family makes such a possibility especially potent. If it is Valentine, then Laura's shock may stem not just from fear of losing him, but from the disturbing context in which he may have been found. Rumors continue to swirl that Valentine may have returned to the infamous Spoon Island, the long-standing Casadini stronghold known more for its shadows than its hospitality. If he was indeed captured there, the implications extend far beyond personal grief. They suggest an escalation in a secret war. No one in Port Charles is fully prepared to fight. All signs point to Jens Sidwell, a deeply enigmatic and dangerous figure. As the one responsible for this potential act of violence, Sidwell's interest in Valentine is not rooted in personal vendettas, but rather in something far more insidious. His belief that Valentine possesses critical skills and strategic value potentially linked to the dark legacy of Caesar Facin. Facin's name alone is enough to send chills down Laura's spine. Having witnessed the psychological and physical carnage he once brought to so many lives, including her own family's. To hear that Sidwell is trying to carry out some final effort based on Facin's twisted vision would be horrifying enough. To learn that Valentine may have been abducted or harmed in service of that mission would shake Laura to her core. Adding to her emotional volatility is the fact that Sidwell has been carefully monitoring Valentine's movements, aware of his return to treacherous territory. The possibility that Sidwell acted swiftly, taking Valentine prisoner in some covert operation, makes the unfolding situation all the more urgent. Laura may find herself forced to connect dots between whispers of surveillance, shadowy networks, and past warnings that she once dismissed as paranoid speculation. If Valentine's disappearance is confirmed, and he is in fact the patient on the verge of death at General Hospital, Laura's reaction will not be one of mere concern. It will be one of betrayal, horror, and helplessness in the face of a resurgence of evil she thought long extinguished. The emotional fallout for Laura will not be confined to the hospital walls. It will reverberate through her personal decisions, her political instincts as mayor, and her relationships with key figures who may have known more than they let on. A re-emergence of Facin's influence, this time through Sidwell's calculated manipulation, represents a haunting repetition of history. And Laura may begin to question whether Port Charles is once again on the precipice of chaos. Even more unsettling is the possibility that others like Anna Dean, Jason Morgan, or even Spencer could soon find themselves pulled into the same spiral of danger, especially if Valentine's knowledge is leveraged against them. The storyline appears to be carefully designed not just to reintroduce danger, but to explore the emotional consequences of betrayal disguised as strategy. Laura's deep-rooted instincts for protection will be tested, particularly if she must now contend with the fact that a man she grew to trust, despite their rocky history, has become a pawn in a game with echoes of the past. Her realization, slow at first, then searingly clear, will be that this isn't just a personal tragedy. It's a warning, a revival of ghosts that never truly died. And the first tremor in what may become a devastating aftershock across all of Port Charles. The possibility that Valentine Casadini has fallen into a trap set by Jen Sidwell is a chilling development in the evolving landscape of General Hospital's 2026 storyline. Long known for his unpredictable alliances and dangerous intelligence background, Valentine has often walked a fine line between calculated risk and recklessness. But if recent hints are to be believed, he may have overstepped into a danger too elaborate even for him to escape. There is growing speculation that he could become the latest casualty in Sidwell's mysterious and increasingly sinister agenda, but as with many things in Port Charles, the concept of death may not be as permanent as it seems. The groundwork for this theory lies in precedent. Britt Westburn's death had also appeared sudden and tragic, but viewers later learned that it had been carefully orchestrated to serve a greater purpose. Her involvement in a shadowy project led to a staged death that shielded her from immediate threats and allowed certain narratives to unfold behind the scenes. If the same structure is applied to Valentine, then his death could merely be a strategic illusion meant to manipulate allies and enemies alike while concealing a deeper game of power, deception, and survival. What's most disturbing is that Valentine may have walked straight into Sidwell's trap without realizing it. Reports suggest he may have returned to Spoon Island perhaps out of sentiment, unfinished business, or a strategic need. Sidwell, who has already demonstrated awareness of Valentine's movements and intentions, would have had ample time to prepare an ambush. Unlike previous Casadini enemies, Sidwell is patient and methodical. His interest in Valentine's unique skill set, and his references to furthering Caesar Fayson's twisted legacy paint a picture of a man not driven by revenge, but by vision. In that vision, Valentine may be either a vital asset or a liability to be removed quietly and convincingly. The ramifications of this scenario are emotionally devastating, especially for Charlotte. If Valentine has indeed disappeared or appears to be dead, the burden of breaking the news may fall on Lucas, who is often tasked with handling delicate family communications at the hospital. The very idea of Lucas having to tell Charlotte that her father has died, especially without the comfort of a clear explanation or a body to grieve, would introduce a wave of anguish for a young girl already shaped by the instability of her family legacy. Charlotte's emotional world has long been tethered to her father's unpredictable presence. Losing him, even in the illusion of death, could trigger intense behavioral consequences and possibly draw other characters like Laura, Nina, and Anna into deeper layers of grief and investigation. Yet, the nature of Sidwell's manipulation suggests that viewers must remain skeptical. The secrecy surrounding the identity of the mysterious patient currently in crisis at General Hospital leaves room for interpretation. If that patient turns out to be someone else entirely, perhaps a double, a decoy, or another operative caught in the crossfire, then Valentine's death could serve a dual purpose, luring others into action while giving Sidwell time to reposition his influence. Across Port Charles, the concept of staging a death has been used in the past to reset character arcs, realign loyalties, and trigger chain reactions that extend far beyond the original deception. Moreover, Valentine's supposed death could be part of a larger plan, either his own or Sidwell's. If Valentine is aware of how close Sidwell has gotten to executing a master plan, he may have chosen to fake his demise in order to operate from the shadows, manipulating outcomes without being watched. This theory gains traction when considering how often Valentine has used deception, feigned alliances, and assumed identities to protect those he loves or to derail threats he could not confront directly. Playing dead may be his only chance to dismantle Sidwell's operation from within, especially if law enforcement or the WSB is compromised. Alternatively, Sidwell could be the one orchestrating the false death, not to protect Valentine, but to eliminate suspicion while secretly using him. If Valentine is being held prisoner or conditioned, possibly through psychological tactics, reminiscent of Fayson's mind control methods, then the world may be led to believe he's gone well. He's transformed into something far more dangerous. The idea of Valentine being brainwashed or worse converted into an unwilling agent for Sidwell's goals would elevate the stakes exponentially. He could return not as a victim but as a threat, perhaps to Charlotte, to Anna, or even to the broader structure of safety within General Hospital. In this web of uncertainty, what remains constant is the emotional tension surrounding Valentine's fate. If his death is confirmed, it would mark the end of one of Port Charles' most complex figures. If, however, it is faked, whether for protection, strategy, or manipulation, the consequences will unfold slowly, devastatingly, and likely with irreversible effects. The ambiguity is deliberate, designed to keep both characters and audiences guessing, and to sustain a narrative built on distrust, secrets, and emotional shockwaves until the truth is fully revealed. Every action, whether it's Lucas preparing to deliver painful news, or Laura reeling from unexplained loss, will be colored by doubt. The question that haunts Port Charles now isn't just whether Valentine is dead. It's whether his disappearance is the beginning of his end or the beginning of something far worse. There's growing speculation surrounding the mysterious medical crisis unfolding at General Hospital. But one thing is becoming increasingly clear. It's likely not Anna Dean who is at the center of this emergency. While her past brushes with danger and espionage have made her a natural suspect, in any high-stakes scenario, current story development suggests that Anna's arc is steering in a different direction. One that could be equally suspenseful, but more emotionally rooted in her family ties, especially through her granddaughter Emma. For viewers concerned that Anna might be the unidentified patient fighting for their life in the hospital, the current narrative hints strongly against the outcome. The trajectory of Anna's character appears to be aligning with a storyline that will involve Emma Scorpio Drake along with Emma's grandparents Mac and Felicia Scorpio. Rather than positioning Anna as a victim of medical trauma, the plot seems to be laying the groundwork for a mystery surrounding her disappearance, not her injury or death. This distinction is critical and shifts the emotional stakes from physical peril to emotional uncertainty and potential psychological manipulation. In the episode scheduled for Thursday, January 22, Emma will reportedly seek help from none other than Nathan West. This development is particularly intriguing as Nathan's reappearance or role, whether in flashbacks, dreams, or a twist involving misdirection suggests. The storyline is digging deep into the Scorpio family legacy and unresolved grief. Emma's pursuit of answers about her grandmother's whereabouts may mark the beginning of a larger arc involving family unity, secrets buried under years of service to justice, and perhaps a new generation stepping into the shadows of the WSB. This narrative direction opens the door to several possible theories. Anna could be off the grid voluntarily, investigating a threat too dangerous to share even with her closest allies. Alternatively, she could have been forcibly taken, much like past abductions involving high-ranking operatives with knowledge critical to international espionage or domestic security. If so, the Scorpio Drake family may be pulled into a complex web of cover-ups and half-truths that only deepen the emotional toll. Either way, Anna's fate appears to rest not in a hospital bed, but in a growing sense of absence and mystery that will soon send ripples across her family and the Port Charles community. Meanwhile, General Hospital spoilers continue to emphasize the severity of the crisis unfolding within the hospital walls, particularly involving Lucas Jones, Elizabeth Baldwin, and a still unnamed patient in life-threatening condition. The emphasis on Lucas preparing to deliver devastating news, coupled with the intense secrecy surrounding the patient's identity, has led to a wave of theories, many of which initially implicated Anna. However, with Emma's storyline gaining traction, it seems increasingly plausible that someone else is at the center of this medical emergency, perhaps Valentine or another player connected to the tangled web of espionage and family loyalties. What's equally compelling is how these parallel narratives may ultimately converge. Anna's disappearance and the mystery patient could be threads of a single larger story. Is someone targeting key members of the WSB or former agents for elimination, abduction, or manipulation? Could Sidwell or another shadow figure be orchestrating a quiet purge of those who once stood in the way of powerful criminal networks? If so, the stage or actual death of Valentine and the vanishing of Anna might be two sides of the same terrifying coin. For now, fans are encouraged to closely watch Emma's journey, as it may hold the key to uncovering Anna's true location and the reasons behind her silence. Likewise, the situation at the hospital is far from resolved. And until the identity of the mysterious patient is confirmed, every clue must be examined through the lens of General Hospital's signature blend of suspense, misdirection, and emotional depth. Stay tuned because the coming days promise not only answers, but new questions that could redefine the direction of General Hospital in 2026. Music,